Hello, if you saw my shorts video, I said that I'm going to be telling other people's medical stories now, which means I'll be able to upload more frequently. I'm aiming to do like once every 1 to 2 weeks right now, and I really want to focus on reproductive health issues, but I will tell other kinds of stories. But the reason I want to focus on this is because it's not talked about enough, it's not taken seriously enough by doctors, and for the last few years that's changing, and I want to be part of that change as well. So last night I read this story from a woman, and I asked her if it was okay to share her story, and she very kindly said yes. I gave her the link to my YouTube so she could see, who I am, what kind of videos I do. But anyways, let's get into the story. Hello all. I have had a very long journey with my reproductive health, and I thought you all might appreciate my persistence for diagnosis and may possibly have advice of your own. Also, if you have any advice, please leave it below. If you have your own medical story, please also leave it in the comments below. I want to hear everything. The weirder the health condition is, the more interested I am in it. But I think reproductive health, for me having endometriosis and high-risk HPV, that's, something I'm very interested in. And one thing I've come to realise is that people who have one disorder or disease, they usually have not just the one. When it comes to reproductive health, it's usually like a cluster of diseases and disorders. But anyways, let's get back to it. I started my cycle on my 11th birthday. Happy birthday to me, in brackets, with a laughing emoji. The first few years were what I assume is average in bleeding, pain, or duration. But every year, my periods got heavier, more painful, longer, blood clots started to appear regularly, etc. 2017, I was 19 at the time, had gotten a Nexplanon implant put in to avoid having to take a daily pill, which is understandable, but I've heard so many horror stories from the implant, even from friends, and just generally on the internet. It seems like no one has a good time with the implant, and if you do, you're very lucky. It was about 3-4 months later that the implant broke in my arm and started a 6-month-long period that ended in multiple trips to the ER for blood loss, which is really fucking scary. Just think about that. The doctors told me my body overreacted to the hormonal flood from the implant and that my reproductive organs were perfectly healthy and functioning, no gynecological conditions. Okay, then things are back to the normal horrible periods for a few years. I had my first child at 21, second at 22, and third at 25. Now I'm 25, and this person would be 27 now. And I've got 0 children. So, I have no perspective on that. I have animals instead of children. And I've been thinking maybe I should make videos about, the story of how I adopted and rescued my animals. But anyways, each pregnancy was harder on my body, the first being tolerable, but after my second, my immune system was so weak I had gotten cellulitis from one of my ear piercings that spread to my blood. And I've heard a lot about cellulitis from this group on Facebook, which is where I'm getting the story from in particular, and I had no idea what it was before I joined this group, but it seems like it's very, very common, and I thought it would be something to do with cellulite on your thighs when I first read it, but no, it's a common infection, and it's freaking scary. Otherwise normal pregnancies, other than that, My last baby had to be induced a week early because of the amount of symptoms I gained while I was pregnant with number 3. I had an undiagnosed ovarian cyst rupture during my first trimester, then constant gynecological pain, extreme weight gain, and my uterus eventually separated my abdominal muscle. I know what it's like to have constant gynecological pain, and some days you just want to cry. And as you can see, I am very fat, and this is mainly due to the chemicals, no, not the chemicals, the hormones. Hormones are chemicals, but it's mainly due to the hormones that trigger the endometrial growth that I have. Just to give you like some more information, and uterus separating from the abdominal muscle, that is scary. And like, how does that even work? Anyway, my immune system took another major hit after having him, and I was sick for 6 months straight and developed HPV because of it. I'm just reading the brackets myself because I couldn't remember this part from reading it the other day, but you know, she's saying, please don't judge me, and I don't care who you are, I don't care how you've contracted any STD, nobody should pass judgment on anybody else, because, you know, these infections, I wish with all my heart didn't exist, honestly, and they really shouldn't exist, but, you know, from the beginning of time there have been infections, and even in our modern age there are still no ways to prevent some infections, and HPV is one of those things that is completely and utterly untreatable and incurable. And it doesn't matter how you acquire it, whether it's through your own action or like me, likely had it from birth. It doesn't matter. You know, these things are going around generally in the population. It doesn't matter, and you should not judge anybody not knowing their story, and even when you do know their story, you know, life takes us to strange places sometimes. And anyway, I'm going to stop my tangent. So, in April, after almost 20 years of symptoms and suffering 3 years of going through the steps to be approved, I got a total hysterectomy last week. And that's fabulous. If it's really helped you, or if you think it would really improve your health, please push. I had to see a surgeon and speak to doctors several times, and it took around 10 to 11 months from requesting it from my GP and speaking to the surgeon that did my laparoscopy again, to get her to push it forward for me to sign the paperwork. And I'm on the list now, and it's going to happen within the next year or a little bit further on. And you know, if I was the same age I am now, like 10 years ago, I would have got very, very misogynistic reasons on why I wasn't allowed to get my organs taken out. You know, this is my body, and I know what's best for me, and anybody out there who thinks that they might benefit from something, you know your body. And if doctors are trying to act like they know you better than you do, speak to another doctor, keep trying, be persistent. I know it's disheartening when it seems like everybody is turning you away, or, you know, pushing your buttons, basically. You should try, just keep trying if you know what's right for you. Okay, it's the last bit now, and I'll try not to interrupt. So that's where my pathology findings come in, and there's pictures of the pathology findings, but I'm not going to like show you those because I film these videos as a one shot. I don't do any editing. I might in future, but for now it's just too much for me because I have executive dysfunction. And what used to happen with my videos is I'd film all the little clips, and then when it came around to actually doing the editing, I didn't want to do it because my brain was like, no, why would you ever do things? And I've interrupted when I said I wouldn't. For everyone not interested in Googling all the jargon, I had multiple cysts, follicular, paratubal and fimbria growths. I only know what follicular are. I've never heard of the other two, so if you're interested, please Google it, like I probably will right after I finish filming. On both ovaries and fallopian tubes, as well as horribly thin outer lining and vessels of my uterus. The surgeon told me when I woke up that she was just shredding my uterus with her fingers, trying to remove it. It was that thin. It was bleeding so easily, I lost 150 ml of blood from just that piece alone. That info is on a different document. They didn't include it in the post. The medical gaslighting is so real, but thankfully it's over for me on this end. But this new symptom has added to my already growing list, leading to my genetic disorder. I have a near future appointment to get tested to confirm. Always listen to your body, my friends. It tells you crazy things. And that's something that I sort of implied, but I think she said it better. If you know something is wrong, try again and again and again. I mean, it took me 5 years to get diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome after knowing I had it since I was 17. And it's very brave to take the first step because it's easy to keep putting it off and saying that you don't have time for it. But even if you just take that first step of talking to your general practitioner or primary care provider if you're in the US, that is already a lot, and you might want to take it slowly. And props to you. You know, a lot of people probably have jobs and it's hard to fit appointments around jobs. But if you're very unlucky like me, a job is not something that's achievable with the health conditions that I have. And for the past few years, endo and the HPV have really taken over my life to the point where, as I've mentioned, I'm having surgery to deal with the impact it's having on my life because I can't cope. I'll be honest, I'm weak. I can't cope with the pain a lot of the time. You know, I take pills every day, and recently I tried to detox off of the pills, and I lasted less than 12 hours because it just hurts so bad. And it's hard to get you to understand if you've never experienced it yourself. But these conditions, which are often overlooked by doctors, misdiagnosed, or just put off, and they're saying it's not real, it's all in your head, you're imagining it. It's not. It is real. And if we don't speak up for ourselves, if we don't advocate for ourselves, and if we don't do something now to keep pushing forward the advances, keep pushing for more research, and just don't accept being fobbed off, then things are only going to get worse. And I don't know if you've seen the state of politics recently, but it really seems like things are going backwards, and it's been really disheartening for me to see all of these things happening. But you know, for the past few months, I think I have built this dedication to wanting to make a difference in the world, and I want my organs taken out, and I don't want them to be thrown away. I want them to be researched. I want someone to dissect and have a look and hopefully find new information from what I'm sacrificing and what I have tried so hard to achieve, rather than it just going to waste. So thank you for watching. I'm sorry that I ramble on and I probably don't make much sense, but I'll see you next week or the week after with another very interesting medical story. If you want to be in this group yourself, on Facebook, it is medical gore hyphen injury, surgery, scars, wounds, and more. It might come up if you just type in the first bit. It's got a really long title, but it's teaching me a lot about medical conditions, which is something I'm very interested in. I mean, I have to be interested in it. Anyways, see ya.